to feel lighthearted. That's not what this video is about. You'll laugh perhaps because of the absurdity of it, but I noticed that like the other day someone asked me to say something funny, and I was like, "Fuck you." I didn't say that, but I almost did. But I was very kind. I was like, "Something funny." Next. So anyway, going to tell a story today, as long as I have signal. And this is a dark story. We'll call it a dark bedtime story. Don't listen to this, kids, before you go to bed. It's not that dark. I mean, most of you guys are going to listen and be like, okay, whatever, that wasn't that bad. And then you're going to be like, oh shit, that's how things are. Ugh. And so if you don't want to have to wake up every single day depressed, then don't listen to the story. Move on with your life. Be happy. But if you actually want to move to the next level, then so be it. Let's go. All right, I tried to tell the story earlier. I'm going to tell it again. So, I had the great fortune. I'm going to make this up, okay? It's not true, never happened, not real, blah, blah, blah. All the inferences and everything is just made up, and it's all fairy tales, okay? All right. So, there was an alien on a planet far away that lived in a society that was probably 200,000 or 300,000 years ahead of Earth. Okay? I mean, not really, but it would seem that way because everything there worked in a way that it's never worked among humans on this planet. And so this alien decided, hey, I don't understand what suffering and sadness and stupidity and slavery and struggle and all that stuff is. I don't understand that. It doesn't make sense to me. I don't understand it. And I want to understand it. And so he was kind of like what you might call an anthropologist. He liked to study different species that were quasi-sentient. Earth people are not considered sentient or intelligent. They're considered proto-intelligent or quasi-intelligent, but not actually intelligent. So people of Earth aren't actually considered intelligent. And there are so many obvious reasons why, but most people here don't think outside of the, blinders that they've been given from birth. So they were like, let's study these beings. They're kind of like us, and they're kind of intelligent, and we'll study them because we want to understand what like lower intelligent beings are like, And so they thought that was curious. The way that humans study tiny monkeys, they wanted to study the humans on Earth, and so he decided, okay, I'm going to go there. And they said, okay. So you're going to learn about slavery, you're going to learn about stupidity, you're going to learn about suffering, you're going to learn about struggle and scarcity, all these things that we don't have and haven't had for hundreds of thousands of years. So this little alien's like, okay, he wasn't little. I mean, compared to Earth people, he was probably very big. But on his world, there are teeny tiny people the size of a thimble, and there are people the size of buildings. So there's different types of humans, and they're just different species. They don't interbreed. But just like dogs and cats and monkeys, you got little tiny sand cats, and then you got Siberian tigers. Siberian tigers are like 300 times as big as a sand cat or something. Anyway, so humans are just like that. It's just that in your world, that is, you don't have access to that. All right, so monkeys in a cage. So they were like, okay, let's go study those proto-intelligent, quasi-intelligent, quasi-sentient, proto-intelligent, human-like creatures on that planet that they call Earth. And so they the sorcerers, the priests, the scientists. I mean, sorcerers and priests are real scientists. On Earth, you call them scientists. But again, I digress. They told him, okay, you're going to learn about stupidity, slavery, suffering, struggle, all the things that are everyday experiences for those humans on that planet. And he was like, all right. And they said, okay, here's the portal. It opens up. He walks through, and he takes the form of some 20 or 30-year-old human just walking around and observing things. I think the first time he came to Earth was like at the end of the Golden Age. He was like, okay, well, these are intelligent beings, because they weren't going to send him to this world. He never would have come back. So he had to go to the last time that humans were intelligent, last time humans were civilized. So he went to the time of Göbekli Tepe and the Zep Tepe. The Zep Tepe, like the very end of the Zep Tepe, was the beginning of Göbekli Tepe. And he saw what was happening, and he understood that they were preparing for a dark age. And he watched them bury Göbekli Tepe. He watched them take all the caps and everything off the main pyramids in Cairo and throughout the world. And he just realized that, okay, they were preparing for a dark time. And then the portal opened up. He interacted with the humans there that were actually intelligent, that were actually sentient. And then he walked back through the portal around 12, 13,000 BC, somewhere in there. And then came back, went back to his world. And he told them, okay, I see that they're preparing for a very dark period and they're worried about it. And but they have like a contingency plan to save our genome on that dismal little world they call Earth. And the priests, the sorcerers said, yeah, they have a contingency plan. We don't know how it's going to work. And he said, okay, I'm going to go back. And they said, okay, there you go. You actually have to take a body this time. He's like, are you sure? They were like, yeah, you're not going to understand anything that they're doing unless you've had your memories wiped and you've been indoctrinated with their superstition. And he was like, hey, I don't know if I could take that. And they were like, all right, well then go on to their planet and walk around for about a year. And so they open a portal. He walks through. He has the body of an Assyrian during the time of the Assyrian Empire. And as they were expanding, and he was one of the aristocracy. And he met some of the others who come from his world that were part of the aristocracy, but they were just observing the world. And they were taking the bodies of Earth humans. And, he observed, and he was like, okay, there's slavery. They cut each other's heads off. They kill each other. They rape, pillage, lie, steal, all that stuff. And he was like, okay, I was expecting this more or less, but okay, let's see if I can stomach it. But he couldn't take it so long. He couldn't stay a year. So he stayed like 3 or 4 months, and he was like, I have to be indoctrinated. I cannot stand that. It just makes no sense what they're doing to each other. And so, again, he jumped out of the body that he was given because there's certain people here that don't actually have souls. They're just vehicles that intelligences or consciousness come in and out of. And so he took, he jumped out of that body, and it went on living its life. It was some aristocrat in the Assyrian, among the Assyrians. There were lots of aristocrats, so he didn't matter. He was probably a seventh son of a seventh son or something. Who cares, right? Just an NPC. Nobody cared about him. And so the alien went back to his home world. And he's like, okay, I've got to be born as a human. And they were like, all right, we told you. He was like, yeah, I know. And he decided to be born as a Irish girl around the 18th century in North America. And this is one thing that these people understand. There's no such thing as time. They get it. They actually understand the real thing that you guys call time. There's something behind that actually exists, and they understand it. There's no room to discuss that now. They also understand consciousness, so that's why they're able to do this. Open up portals, go into that world, explore it, see what you can do, change the timeline. Who cares? It's not like, Back to the Future. Oh, if you eat yourself, the whole world will explode. That's stupid. Doesn't make any sense. It has no value in any. That's so stupid. It makes no sense. Anyway, so he went in, was born as this Irish girl who was born to a poor family at the end of the mid-18th century. And there was a famine taking place, and her family couldn't really feed her, so she was a street urchin, more or less. Around the age of 4, she was spirited away, put on a slave ship, and shipped to North America. The body of that girl only lasted about 13 years, more or less. Literally, like 13, maybe 14 years at most. But he learned about suffering and slavery from that experience. The young Irish girl, I won't go into details. It's just too terrible what happened to her. I'm not going to talk about it. But she lived about 13 years, and he was like, okay, that was hard, but I understand suffering. I understand slavery. And he was like, let me see if I can understand. And scarcity, he learned that because she was a street urchin. She was bought as a slave. She was used up and then died, at 13, pregnant. And so he said, okay, I want to understand the other parts of the human world, like stupidity. And they said, you're going to have to go onto another portion of their timeline in order to understand. You have to actually move to the future to understand stupidity. Because stupidity among early humans was actually not very common, because stupid people died or were murdered or were eaten by wild animals. And so after the invention of all of these, antibiotics and all these other things, you just had lots and lots of people having lots and lots of babies, and there was fake food they were feeding them to keep them alive for 30, 40, 50, 80 years. And so he's like, let me go to that time period. So he said, okay, we're going to send you to the early 20th century, end of the 19th century, early 20th century. I want to understand stupidity. So he was, again, boom, portal opens up. He walks through, ends up in Germany prior to First World War. So he's born around the 1800s, somewhere in there, late 1800s. He lives long enough to be conscripted into the First World War. Germany gets really screwed over, lots of suffering, lots of poverty, lots of destitution. He's like, okay, I understood that stuff and I survived it. Stupidity is about to come. I want to understand that one. And they're like, all right, Germany makes it through World War I. They do all right. And then a couple of years passes, he develops himself, grows a bit, learns a bit. And then World War II slowly develops as Europe is going through what Europe goes through in the early 20th century, after the 1920s. And this is where he got to understand stupidity. He was a German man and had neighbors who were not considered a desirable component in German society, we'll put it that way. And his fear of being marginalized, his fear of the scarcity he experienced during World War I, caused him to be stupid and to malign his neighbors who happened to be of an ethnicity that was not desirable in Germany at that time. Put it that way. And there was lots of suffering and death for those people, but he was okay until the Allied forces moved in and his life ended around that time. So this alien is released back into his home world, and he's like, okay, I understood stupidity a bit. Scarcity and stupidity kind of go together. And that's kind of a thing. This seems like a marriage. Stupidity and scarcity are married. And they were like, yeah, okay. He was like, I really want to, I don't think I really understood stupidity that well. I think I can learn a little more. I mean, it makes sense for him to be afraid for his life because he had seen so much suffering in World War I, this German citizen. But I want to understand stupidity. Say, well, you got to go further into the future to understand that. I mean, stupidity is common in the earlier ages of the human story, even in the last couple of centuries of the species' existence. Stupidity was not really big until the 21st century. And so he said, okay, let's do that. So they put him in another body. Of course, he has to go through the whole birthing process. He has to forget everything. He has to come to this world. And he has to migrate through stupidity. Now, in the world of Earth, his stupidity started off with grade school, elementary, kindergarten, all that stuff. And the things that were obvious, even as a indoctrinated in the human world, the Earth world, things that were obvious to him. The guy is up. And water is wet. And, simple things like that. He was taught to question when they were evident, self-observations. So he realized that stupidity, as you move forward into the future, was not so much a matter of cognitive inabilities or neuro. And it wasn't an issue of necessity or scarcity or fear. Oh, people don't have food, and so they're stupid. No. People in the 21st century had plenty of food. He was lucky enough to have a body that was growing in North America, in one of the largest and most wealthy nations on Earth during the 21st century, which was the United States. And so there was no food scarcity. There's no shelter scarcity. There hadn't been a war for these people in well over a century. I mean, there were wars they were involved in, but they just went and blew up people across the seas and then went back home to America. It was safe. United States. So it made no sense to him that so many of them were not using their brains. For instance, he observed how in all of their major cities, there were time periods during their year in which the temperature could kill the citizens that did not have shelter. So if a child or an adult was outside during different times of the years and exposed to the elements, they would die. He also observed that the lack of shelter did not exist. There were plenty of buildings to house these people that were homeless, children, adults. But among the humans of Earth, there was a superstition about deservedness and worthiness. That was something he didn't understand, because in his world, it was extremely abundant. And so he would watch as the society would move along and people would kill themselves to stay in their homes. He also observed about how 90% plus of the humans in this world didn't actually have homes. They were living in places that didn't belong to them, going to jobs that they didn't want to go to, and doing tasks that did not align with their talents or their abilities. And he thought, that is so strange. There's plenty of food for these people, even if it is poisonous belly filler. It's enough to keep them alive long enough so they can think and create for themselves pleasant, harmonious lives. But instead, they send themselves to places that they don't want to go to. They do tasks they don't want to do for money that doesn't cover their life necessities. And they do it on and on and on for 40 years, 50 years. And at the end, they don't necessarily get the reward that they are worthy of. Thought that was very strange. He observed how these types of humans, the lowest forms of humans that he had seen in all of his travels, from the ancient Assyrians to Göbekli Tepe, the Zep Tepe, all the way to modern times, were actually being ruled by a parasitical worm type group. A group that encouraged suffering and stupidity and slavery and scarcity and suffering. A group that told the humans there is only lack. There's only suffering. You have to prove your worthiness to exist here. Now, the humans could open their eyes and see trees that produce seeds and plants growing everywhere. They could also see vast expanses of land that could be used to create crops that would feed the people. But they ignored that. They kept going to places they didn't want to go, doing tasks they didn't want to do, and doing it for 30, 40, 50 years on end. He didn't understand that. So he left that world, went back to his. He said, I know that there's a massive destruction heading toward that planet, and we were tasked with saving them and preventing their eradication from the cosmos. But there are humans on other worlds. We've seen worlds slightly more advanced than them wiped out, and there was no big loss to the cosmos. Perhaps we should just let nature take its course. The priests, the sorcerers, they said, yeah, we agree. We agree. That's a dark story, isn't it? All right. Ishak says hello. Even says hello. And Monterey Shaw says, please don't bite no one, bro. There's some, again, so these are the types of... so anyway, I mean, it's not. I mean, that's probably just a bot. It's probably not even human. But that's kind of the state of affairs here in this world. And unfortunately, We live in a world of exceptional abundance and freedom and pleasure and joy. There's so much life here. And yet, people choose to wake up every day and allow a parasite to tell them when they can use the restroom, how much money they can put in their bank accounts, how much time they can spend with their offspring, their children. Now they lie to themselves. And they have this superstition. It's like, okay, you know, my boss is a very nice person, and you know, oh, so many people got laid off. It was just so unfortunate. But the company had to do what they had to do. Really? That's interesting. Company had to do that, right? Oh, okay. Yeah, I'll believe that. There are lots of things we tell ourselves that we have to do. And then you go crazy one day and you just don't do them. And you realize that life goes on and you're okay. In the last bit of this human story, as apex humans, we have the ability to decide whether or not this story continues. I don't know that, yes, we're going into a golden age, but what does that mean? What does that mean for humanity, for the earth? I mean, is it going to be a massive die-off extinction, or is it going to be business as usual? We're going to drop bombs on each other. We're going to starve this group of people, make those group of people suffer consciously. And then we're going to stand in front of all the people we've lied to and say, oh, look at me, I'm a good person. I saved one of those people, or I did this good thing for these people. When behind the scenes, it's a bunch of malarkey. Behind the scenes, it's a bunch of deals and lies and robbery and stealing. And that's not to say that the people that are being targeted by these negative things are complete victims. They have functioning brains and they can observe what's happening around them, and they can say, yeah, I noticed this, and I noticed that, and I don't know if that works. That seems weird. That's all. But what happens is, I think most people are afraid. They say, well, it's a person above me making that decision, so I'm just going to stay out of it. Well, actually stay out of it. Maybe step away from it completely. Observe that doesn't make sense for you and walk away. Imagine if everyone walked away from things that made no sense. Perhaps those empty spaces in reality would be filled by people who cared. And many times I've been to restaurants and I interact with the people, and you can tell who's in it because they love it. Like, they would do it if they was for free. Imagine a world where no one is paid for a job, ever. They do it because they cannot wait to get up and do it. Cannot wait to get up in the morning and go and serve people food. Cannot wait to get up in the morning and make donuts or build houses or lay concrete. That's why they go. Not because, I gotta go because I gotta pay for my bills, and my phone bill will get cut off, and my family, and I mean, it's profoundly interesting. It's just, to me, it's fascinating how intelligent people are. The inability to think below the surface. And most people just live not even this deep. They're floating on the top of the surface. A wave comes, they're tossed all over the place. And then there's those of us who are deeper. We're deeper. We can go to the surface if we want and talk with the gummy worms, but we're deep, and we're like, oh, this is what it's about. We can see all of their little feet dangling above us. We're like, oh, this is what this is about, right? Imagine a world where people did a job because they loved it. Everything would work. When people went to the store to work as clerks or whatever, it's because they were like, yeah, I want to do that. I love talking to the customers and, scanning their groceries. It's fun to me. It's exciting. And then when it's not exciting anymore, just move on and do something else. That world can exist. And there's a small population of the humans that do have that kind of a life, where it's like, I do this because I love it. And my needs are met, so I don't have to worry about the basic needs, which, by the way, right now, like I've already demonstrated this to the people that have a modicum of intelligence that watch my channel, um, that every single human being can fit into Texas. Every single human being alive today can fit into Texas. You can do the math on your own. Take 8 billion people. You take 256,000 square miles. It's 256 and some change. 1,000 square miles. That's the square mileage of Texas. Divided by 8 billion, you get a number of 0.0000036, whatever, right? 336745 or something like that. And then you take that and convert it into square feet. Around every single human on Earth, if they were to fit into the place the size of Texas, you would get 936 feet. Basically 1,000 square feet around every person. Every single human on Earth can fit in a place the size of Texas. I mean, a giant square the size of Texas. That is a tiny amount of land. And people say, oh, well, only about 5% of the Earth's crust is, or 5% of the Earth's surface is arable land. Whatever, who cares? Shut up. Texas is what, 0.0001%? With 936 square feet, you can grow all the food for each one of those people in the world. Every single one of those people. So, anyway, this is a honest and unpleasant message. One of those people, again, that has a higher level of intelligence, a holistic level of intelligence, and you're able to look in the world and you say, yeah, none of this makes sense. None of this makes sense. Perhaps walk away. This game doesn't make sense. It's not that it's an unfair game. Of course it is. Or maybe play a better hand or play it differently. And this is a video for myself, I'm talking to myself, saying, if I was here like that alien, observing this world with all of these people, and you can see the suffering in their eyes. I mean, if you have any discernment. And again, not many people do, so I'm only talking to the highly refined 0.0001% of people, but you can look in people's eyes and you can see profound suffering. It doesn't matter, law of attraction all aside, bullshit, right? I can be the happiest, most common, uplifted person, and I still recognize that there are people around me that are in a dark place. I can tell you, most of the people are either zombies, and they're like, there's nothing going on inside. There's nothing going on. They're just bodies walking around. The few that are aware of what's going on are in profound suffering. They smile, they talk to you, but you can almost smell the financial fears. You can almost smell it. It's almost like you smell it. It's like every time I walk past an ATM, it's like you can smell the anxiety on it. Banks. I mean, I don't want to, I don't do this, but if you sit in a parking lot and look at an ATM and watch people walk up to the ATM, watch their body language as they walk to the ATM, as they walk away. Like, you just pay attention to people, especially on Fridays, like today, when this is a pay day for some people. I don't know. And you just watch the body language. That's why I like to stay in wealthy areas, because I don't see the same body language. You go to poor areas and you go stand by an ATM, just watch the body language of the people that walk up to the ATM. As they walk up, they have a certain body language. It's like tight and fearful, and as they walk away, it's like depressed and down. Like, it's just like so much unnecessary suffering. I get it. Like, life has pain, but there's a lot of manufactured suffering in this world that does not have to happen. And it takes a lot of courage and intelligence to say, I'm going to be selfish enough not to be a part of that game, or I'm going to exploit this game to my highest will, my highest benefit. And it's kind of hard to do that, because you'll win where everybody else is losing. You can win, and you'll just watch people lose. And you can win at their expense. You can watch them lose. Like, just watch them lose. Just suffer. And you'll be like, yeah, I'm winning. And that's a hard place to be in. People don't realize how hard it is for people that are winning to win. When you're winning and everyone around you is losing, like, it's lonely. It's lonely. It's like, man, I should help them. But how can you? Again, everybody has decided that it's okay to wake up every day and go to a place they don't want to go to and do things they don't want to do to get money they don't want to have, like money that doesn't even serve all of their needs. That's the vast majority of people living today. It's a dark message, but it's the truth. And if we're big enough to face this kind of truth and still live a happy, productive, prosperous life, then you're Apex. If this tears you down, makes you sad, and destroys your day, I'm sorry to say that it's just part of the process. But perhaps do something about it, because perhaps this struck a chord and you know that this is your life. This is our lives. We can do better. Stay Apex.